The opposition Conservatives are going after the Prime Minister over comments he made at the G20 summit during the weekend. Our own Ashley Berg asked Mark Carney about the state of trade talks between Canada and the U.S., and his answer is now ruffling feathers. The CBC's Marina von Stackelberg joins me now live from Ottawa. So, Marina, what exactly did the Prime Minister say?
Well, he said, who cares? And those two words is really what had the opposition Conservatives going in question period today. He was asked specifically, when was the last time that you had a conversation with U.S. President Donald Trump? And he replied pretty abruptly by essentially saying, who cares? Have a listen to his response.
Since the U.S. called off trade talks with Canada, has Mr. Trump returned your calls, texts? Next question.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters.
So some context for that question there. Our colleague Ashley asked him about his last conversation with Donald Trump, and also another part of a question, which was, what countries are hard lines that you won't make deals with? So he answered that part, but he didn't answer the question about when he had spoken with the U.S. president last. So Ashley pushed him on that, and that's when we got the response, who cares? Carney went on to say, I look forward to speaking with him soon, but I don't have a burning issue to speak with the president right now. When America wants to come back and have discussions on the trade side, we will have those discussions. Now, he might have meant in that, I'm talking about a lot of other important things here. But it definitely read to people, some people, including the Conservatives, as a rather flippant response to a very serious question.
And so tell us about how all this played out in question period, because I heard Pierre Poilievre, he repeated that who cares response in English. When he was answering in French, he said it in English. He said it many, many times.
Yeah, and the Conservatives have called it a flippant response to a question that they say is a very valid one, a reasonable question to be asked of the Prime Minister, especially given the fact that a trade deal was one of Carney's signature election promises in the spring election, that he would get a deal with the United States. And the Conservatives say, especially in the context over the last few weeks, where we've really been seeing the impacts of these tariffs, especially with the auto and lumber industries, with thousands of jobs being moved to the United States. Have a listen to some of the exchange in question period earlier.
It's the Prime Minister who said, who cares? When he was asked just over the weekend about the failure to keep his promises on trade since he took office. Not only has he failed to get the promised deal, but American tariffs on aluminum, autos, and steel have doubled. On forestry communities, they have tripled. The Prime Minister says, who cares? All of us on this side of the House care about the communities that are being emptied out in our forestry, the steel workers in Hamilton who don't have jobs to pay their mortgages. We care about those people. Why doesn't he?
Just because the Leader of the Opposition keeps repeating the same line over and over again doesn't make it real. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition knows very well that our government was elected to defend Canadian workers and the Canadian economy. That's exactly what we did in a budget that was tabled in this House of Commons. The opposition decided not to support Canadian workers.
That, of course, the Minister, Dominic LeBlanc, responsible for the U.S.-Canada trade file, one who's been very involved in the conversations with the United States to get these tariffs taken off. It's interesting there to hear LeBlanc say the Conservative leader keeps repeating the same line, but it doesn't make it real. But in fact, that is what Mr. Carney said. He did say, who cares? And so there's the context there. So when was the last time that Prime Minister Carney spoke with Donald Trump? We know about a little over 3 weeks ago, they were in South Korea. They were at a dinner table together with 6 other people. And we know that Carney said he had a conversation with him there, but that would have just been an informal sort of chat. And the reason why reporters are constantly asking Carney this question is because we don't actually know when these conversations are always happening. In the past, we would get something called a readout. And so if the Prime Minister spoke with a leader, we would get a readout that says, this is what they talked about. But we haven't always gotten those, especially with these conversations between Canada and the U.S. Sometimes we only find out that these conversations have happened because a reporter asks the Prime Minister.
Marina, thank you. The CBC's Marina von Stackelberg live in Ottawa. So what does the Prime Minister's comment tell us about the state of U.S.-Canada relations? For more on that, I want to bring in Louise Blais. She's a former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations and a former consul general based in Atlanta. Louise, nice to see you. Thank you.
Hello, Andrew.
What was your reaction when you heard the Prime Minister's remarks?
Well, I was disappointed. I think he was expressing frustration at the fact that the media keep asking him about it, and really there is no new answer to give. There was obviously no steady contact between the two leaders. I think we're all a little bit in a frosty period in our relationship, to say the least. So I think it's dangerous. Comments make headlines when it's really relationships that make policy. So I think he appeared a little dismissive of the United States and the impact of the tariffs on Canadians. And I think obviously that wasn't optimal. And we just have to hope that it doesn't, in fact, continue to deteriorate the relationship, because we know that the Americans listen to what we say, and they feel that we're being that we're just, have two-faced approach. We tell them things when we speak to them, but then we express other things publicly. And I don't think that's helpful in terms of building the relationship.
So in your conversations, how do you think, maybe you can get into it a little more, do you think Carney's remarks and his broader strategy with Trump are being received?
Yeah, I get asked often, to be totally honest, when I'm in the U.S., what is your strategy in Canada? There's a sense that we keep poking the bear, and we're among the only ones who are doing it, and we have a lot at stake. I mean, you can contrast our approach with that of the Mexicans, for example. I think we just haven't found the right footing. It's been difficult, really, to be honest, for the Prime Minister. He ran on a campaign where he was going to stand up to the president, the elbows up. So it's difficult. And every time that he does anything that really tries to build goodwill and good faith, he gets a lot of criticism in Canada for caving. So he's a bit stuck, and he's trying to navigate those waters. But at the moment, since the ad, he doesn't have a lot of water to row the boat on. And so I think it's incumbent on us at the moment to try to be at least stay out of trouble with these kinds of comments, and try to let the temperature come down, and so that we can resume talks. And if it's not going to be for a deal, it should just be to essentially have conversations, continue to prepare the renewal of USMCA.
I mean, does that mean caving, though? Does that mean sort of kowtowing to the U.S. president, who cuts off talks because he saw an ad that was an accurate reflection of a former Republican president, Ronald Reagan, who, generally speaking, didn't like tariffs? So if he can just cut off, so is Mark Carney just supposed to, he apologized for that, and now he just has to kind of kowtow to the whims of a U.S. president that has threatened to take us over without asking?
Well, look, Andrew, I don't think it's the accuracy of the ad that's really the problem here. Is the ad itself. I mean, was it the wise move just on the eve of when the government was making headway to buy advertising in the United States, political advertising, and use a former Republican president to contradict the current leader? I mean, that's the issue. Was it good judgment? I don't think so. I mean, it was the ads were pulled, and British Columbia decided not to go ahead with their own ad with softwood lumber. So that gives you an idea. So no, it wasn't helpful. Yeah. And that doesn't mean we need to kowtow. I mean, we don't need to place ads, and we certainly wouldn't want the Americans to place ads in Canada. But I think there is a line that we can walk. It's fine. It's not an easy one, as I was mentioning. The Prime Minister does have to defend Canadian interests, but you can do that with a sense of humor, a levity about it, and make sure that you build trust so that we can defend our interests better. There's no defending interests if we're not having a conversation.
We had a U.S. Senator, Angus King, at the Halifax International Security Forum over the weekend, talk about the divide between Canada and the U.S. right now. And he said, quote, "Canadians don't think of Americans as their friends and neighbors, but as adversaries." I mean, so what's your sense of that is kind of like, there's a problem in the relationship, just generally speaking?
Well, it's sad and concerning. I mean, I never thought we would find ourselves in such a position. Definitely, obviously, the president has said some things that have been hurtful to Canadians. But at the same time, I mean, I do push back a little bit on Canadians to say that we've done nothing. There's a series of things we could have handled better. We have let ourselves go in terms of defense, our commitment to NORAD, to NATO. We have been asked by the Americans for years to step up, and we ignore them repeatedly. And so there are comments that we made about the president publicly. The previous government had a lot of criticism in Canada for the Republicans and the movement that brought Donald Trump to power. Those things obviously were the basis for some of the issues that the president has had with Canada. They're not an excuse, but what choice do we have but to try to find a way to change his mind and change his predisposition towards Canada, which has turned to be quite negative, especially predisposition against the government.
Louise, thank you. Louise Blais is a former Canadian ambassador to the UN.